Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to answer technical questions in an interview. It's imperative to have this research done out before you go into an interview so that you can nail it on that day. This is step 4 of 5-part series on how to get prepared for interviews. And the reason why we're looking to do this is so that you can leverage your skills, continue to progress in your career, and become a high income earner, which does correlate positively to being a real estate investor. My name is Ariel Herrera with the Analytics Ariel channel, where we bridge the gap between real estate and technology. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. As well, if you want more tips for driving your career, please like this content. All right, let's get started. Great, so right now I'm on an interview template that I created called Interview Template, which is a guide to prepare for an interview. It basically outlines the 5 steps that we're going to be covering through each of these videos. Now you might think, hey, is this redundant to actually have all your answers written down in one spot? And the answer is no, because there's people like me who do this. And this is why we're very, very prepared for interviews. You have to remember that each job posting may get, say, 500 applications. Of those, maybe only 30 are selected to move on to talk to a recruiter. And then it starts to get more narrow as you go down. And even though you may have a lot of experience or a large skill set, if you aren't able to demonstrate that professionally and in a concise manner at an interview, it's not going to do you any good. As well, if you're newer, maybe you just completed a degree in the data analytics space and you want to get into it, this is the perfect way to, one, build your confidence in your answers, and second, being very prepared to answer any question that comes at you. Okay, so we're focusing today on technical questions. So if we go over to the left-hand side, we could select technical. And I have a brief description of what technical questions are for an interview. Doesn't have to always be tech focused. However, in a lot of industries, as you can, especially when you continue into your career, people want to know that you've been able to solve problems and what your thought process was behind them. So specifically when it comes into the data science space, frequently you may get technical questions before you even meet with someone. You may have a take-home assignment that could take anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, which is a real drag. But when you eventually do get in front of an interviewer to talk about technical questions, you want to be prepared. So this is coming from Indeed. They have a really good point here that they say during a technical interview, the interviewer will assess your technical knowledge, skills, and will also be looking for what your thought process is when solving problems and how you will fit into the company's culture. So the main thing here is that there may be a right answer per each technical solution, but that's not exactly what they're looking for. Not only do they want you to see you solve something, but they want to see how you're explaining your process and what you go about to actually complete it. So for example, say if you're in the workforce and a new problem has just happened. Maybe you're in an ad industry and people are no longer clicking on certain links or going towards a certain part of the product. You may have several data scientists come together, as well as maybe product managers, who are all trying to discuss different scenarios that you could take in order to start working on this problem and figure out what the root cause is. They want to make sure you're someone that can be in that conversation, be a thought leader, and not just someone who says, okay, I'll go look into it, and you're in a hole for like 4 weeks not sharing any of your thought process. They want to make sure you're someone who can communicate in a team, which is why you're trying to join a company versus working on your own. So they also discuss here and Indeed common technical interview questions, which we went over: behavioral, situational. Let's touch the other 2 as well. So tabbing over to this site over here, they talk about behavioral questions, which we already went through. And of course, looking at it in the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result. Situational interview questions are again very similar, using that same technique. Educational questions. This is nothing to really prepare for because you already know this. Do you have a degree or not? Do you have certifications or not? And what is maybe this part, how do you stay up to date on your knowledge? I've actually been asked that several times. So you just mentioned maybe blogs, YouTube, or whatever it is, maybe being a part of a meetup, and you could discuss how you stay current. So next, getting more into technical interview questions. I pulled up a sample job posting from Facebook as a data scientist. So this will appear for a lot of other roles, whether it's in the data science space or not. That's not the important part. The important part is as you go down to minimum qualifications, this is where they want to pinpoint if you have certain skills or not. So for example, when you want to filter on data sets or even create new tables, one of the programmatic ways to do that is using a programming language called SQL or SQL. It's a data querying language. So one of the things you might be expected in an interview is how comfortable are you with SQL? What is your experience with it? Rate yourself from a 1 to 10. That's very normal to have questions like that. So be prepared for each one of these bullet points, how comfortable you are with whatever they're requiring. So for example, when it comes to A/B testing, I'm not in a role where I'm testing stuff on a site. So even though I've learned about A/B testing and I've done some research on my own, I haven't applied that in the workforce. That's exactly how I would say it. I haven't applied it in an industry setting. However, given my knowledge, I bet I can learn very rapidly how to understand this type of experimentation. So you never want to just say, I don't know it. You want to either say that you heard of it, referenced it a while ago in your undergrad, master's, or whatever degree, but you are comfortable with learning something new and getting up to speed. What coding language are you most comfortable with? Again, this is very specific to developers, but in whatever field you may be in, maybe there's a certain skill set or that's always needed. So developers world, it's always coding. So you want to make sure you have just a brief background as to how comfortable you are with whatever language you code in. Dig into some more interesting things, technical interview tips, explain your reasoning, which we discussed. That's not all about the answer, it's also about how you got there. No different methods for solving a problem. Now this is huge because, again, imagine we're in that scenario where the ads are not working, people aren't using the product as we expect, and we decide, let's try to tackle this problem at one angle. And we do that, and we're still not able to get the solution as to why people aren't clicking on our ads. So we need to think of different methods. So because of this, we need to always look at a problem as, okay, this might be my main method, but what is steps B and C if A doesn't work? And what are some cons as well as pros of using each method over another? So that's something that's really important. And if you're not sure what the interview is ultimately trying to get at, always ask for clarification. This is also, it's always good to pose a question to not only get a better understanding of it, but also to give yourself a little bit more time to think through it. Now going back, the greatest thing is that we live in a technology era where there's knowledge everywhere. So more than likely, there's someone who has already interviewed for either the same position at the company that you're going for or for a similar role at a different company. And you can leverage this in order to get sample questions and answers and put this into your one-stop shop template. You might say, oh, this is so redundant to do this for each job I'm applying for. Well, no, if you're being smart about it and you're applying for a specific type of role, a specific type of role is only going to have so many questions. So this is like your one-stop shop to answering, say, everything in the data science space, which is why it's really good to document this down rather than continuously applying and creating these cheat sheets every single time. It's very redundant. So tips, how do we actually find these sample questions? So you're going to go onto Google, research the role and at company name, and then you should be able to find some questions. So we go to data science role at Facebook, interview questions. On the Medium, the Towards Data Science section, that Jay Fang has wrote an article that talks about what the data science role at Facebook is all about. It has a lot of claps, so I would think that it's a reliable source. Talks about how general responsibilities, the role itself, but then goes more into what skills will be tested during the interview, the technical screen, and here, this is what we're looking for, some sample questions. So what we would do is that we would copy this over and then we would paste it into our template over here and then be able to later on answer these questions. So what we want to do is try to take at least 5 different websites of doing this. Another one we could look at is Glassdoor. So from what we could see here is that other people had applied for the data scientist role. They interviewed and they discussed a little bit about the questions in here. Now, if this is outdated, so this is March 2020, you have to think that the company probably is asking questions in a different way. So don't prepare for the exact same question, but just get an idea as to what they're asking. So we see here, creation of Facebook user groups has gone down by 20%. What will you do? So they might not ask again about the creation of user groups. They might ask about a different product, but it's good to understand this question and how you would answer it. So you just keep doing that and bringing those questions over to your template. So how do you actually answer these? I found another really useful site. So say if we're no longer interviewing for this data science role because we have shifted our careers over to product managers, we could see Stellar Peers, which if you are in a technical space, they do have a lot of good pages just like this to be able to get prepared for interviews. So the question may be, they actually pose the question. They say how you should think about the question, what it's actually about, what the interviewer is looking for, and then how to structure your answer. So when you do find questions that already have answers to them, it's like a step up because you don't have to formulate that on your own right away. But the way I would put it is, again, just like we did for behavioral questions where we noted everything, you don't want to have a whole essay as an answer because you want to be able to study this and reference it quickly. So one of the questions that was there was Facebook is considering getting into travel industry. Should they do it? And what you would want to do is follow what the blog said. So they had a whole essay about it, but I just captured what they said in a few simple sentences. So state current competition and what they do, determine scope in 3 parts. There were 3 parts that were mentioned if you were to read the blog, and then what the action point is. So you want to make sure that each of the questions you're consolidating what the answer is in very small segments so that you could study it later. So for your next steps, you want to do this research. You're going to look for questions at least from 3 to 5 sites and note those down into your template. And then after you get several questions, start the Q&A process by sorting it that way. So you're going to put the question and then what your sample answer would be. That way, for whatever specific role you're looking for, you already have a set of questions that you can always go back to. And these documents are living and breathing documents. I mean, documents that I've used from 3 years ago in interview templates, I still edit and use today, even if I'm not even applying to jobs, but just to keep myself fresh. All right, so there you have it. This was the technical questions portion of the 5-part series for knowing how to interview the right way. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel as well as like our content. Thanks so much.